From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode number 268 of From the Middle. We are three middle class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives in the middle of college football season with points of view somewhere in the middle. It's not really the middle, but I am very excited about college football. That's one of the things we talk about in this episode, but not until the back end, alongside some of the stuff we're streaming. In the front end, Kory has a massage experience of sorts. We talk a little bit about charcut boards and how delicious they are for those of us that grew up on Lunchables. We talk a little bit about Goodles. If you don't know what those are, you should definitely check those out. Wolverine, Deadpool, and what a glorious movie that was. And a little bit of a unique podcast experience with one of our favorite comedians, Pete Corielli. This is a really fun episode. We hope you have a ton of fun. Check it out.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the middle after dark over here.
History has been made in the world of Major League Baseball.
Tell us more.
This week, on Monday, a baseball player by the name of Danny Jansen played for both teams in the same game.
How is this possible?
It's a fun little story and a little, it was almost so much cooler kind of thing, too. So Danny Jansen has been a catcher for the Toronto Blue Jays all season long. And then they started a game against the Boston Red Sox in late June. He is up to bat. Danny Jansen is up to bat in the second inning. First pitch is strike one. And then the heavens open up and it starts pouring down rain. They delay the game with Danny Jansen at one strike in the second inning. And then the rain doesn't stop. They eventually have to postpone the game until when they're going to be playing in that venue again against each other, which was on Monday. In the meantime, Danny Jansen got traded from the Blue Jays to the Boston Red Sox. Now, I don't know if they set this like that trade happened organically. And I don't know if they decided that they're going to, we're going to go ahead and play him at catcher. And so what they have to do then, for those who don't know, you could probably figure when baseball does this, they set up the scenario exactly as it was. And so there was a runner on first. They got to put that same runner on first base. If they don't, then they need to score it on the sheet as though it's a pinch runner and the previous guy can no longer play in that game because everything is put together as if. So the as was situation was Danny Jansen at the bat for the Blue Jays with one out and a runner on first in the second inning. Okay. Danny Jansen no longer plays for the team. So what they have to do is bring in a pinch hitter to come in and hit for Danny Jansen. So this pinch hitter now is coming in and he has one strike on him already when he gets to the plate, right? The Red Sox decide, you know what? We're going to take our catcher out and put Danny Jansen in at catcher. And so Danny Jansen caught against kind of himself.
That's awesome.
The only thing that would have made this story cooler would have been if Danny Jansen back in June, if they would have gone one more pitch and he would have gotten strike two and then called the game. What would happen in that scenario is when the game starts back up, let's say the batter that came in for Danny Jansen strikes out. That strikeout would be recorded and put on Danny Jansen because he got two of the three strikes. And so what could have potentially played out on a scorecard, a legitimate Major League Baseball scorecard would have been Danny Jansen strikes out, strike 3, caught by Danny Jansen. That could have legitimately happened on the scorecard. It didn't.
Wow.
That's so fun. Before
Anyway.
we go any further, I have to commend you on how clearly you told that story. You were so articulate that even non-baseball fans can appreciate what happened because of your phenomenal delivery. That was impressive, man. It's like you practiced that.
I did not practice that. I told the story to my wife earlier today, but
very clear, nicely done.
Baseball fans are nerds. We're stat nerds. We are scorecard. Like a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about when I'm saying a Major League Baseball scorecard, but look into it and you'll find out how nerdy baseball fans are. But yeah, it was fun.
Danny Jansen, he's making the thumbnail. The question is, which team do we put him on in the photo?
There's probably a meme out there that has him at both or something.
Both, like his.
Yeah, you got to have the split jersey down the middle with both for sure. Now,
It would have been.
I love that story.
It's like, man, how could you have done that? So it was one, like, edit the film together so it's one cohesive at bat.
Yeah,
and then do something cool where after strike 1 he switches to the catcher or something. I don't know. Make a skit out of it, and the pitcher's like, "Wait, what just happened?" I don't know. That's fun, man.
Baseball's cool.
It's another week. Speaking of scorecards, our scorecard is full as it relates to things we want to share this week. Sometimes we text each other ahead of the episode and go, "Hey, man, I got nothing." And there's a lot that's been going on. It's cool.
Sometimes I pull up my notes app and tumbleweeds blow across the screen. What we're saying. The list is full. And for just a second, you said the baseball player's name, and I heard Danny Tanner. And then I imagined Bob Saget out there at bat.
Bob Saget looks like a baseball guy.
He could be.
Definitely a manager vibes.
He's got baseball vibes for sure.
Either that or like somebody who would sit around and say like, yeah, I played against Larry Bird in high school.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Him and I always went, but he made it to the NBA and I didn't. It feels like the biopic that never happened.
Yeah. There's a series or a biopic or something of that kind of scenario of it's kind of a half fact, half fiction, I think, kind of thing with Steph Curry. Have you guys seen this?
No.
That's essentially what I know about it. But it's that somebody who used to play basketball with Steph Curry in high school is like coming back into his life. Kind of
interesting
kind of plot situation. But yeah, sports is fun. Hey, and the Little League World Series just wrapped up too. Baseball's full of all kinds of fun things. The Little League World Series, which I believe the way they do that now is there is an American championship game. So they do a series, and then a team from Florida beat a team from Texas to be the American World Series champions. And then the whole rest of the world teams. So you've got your Japanese and your Chinese and your Hispanic teams, and they play sort of like their own bracket and come out with like a champion of their own. And then the big international World Series is the American champion versus the world champion.
That's fun.
Like World Series.
So it's like the World Series. Yeah.
The actual World Series.
They have an actual World Series. Thank you very much. Yeah. And the team from Florida beat China in the World Series off of a bunt. So they won it in extra innings on a bunt to first base.
About as anticlimactic as the game of baseball.
Well, it was exciting.
No, I kid. But that's got to be a fun experience for people traveling from all over the world. Isn't it still in Omaha? Isn't that where they have in Nebraska? Isn't that the World Series?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think so. They were certainly playing in the same place for both of those games. So
yeah, I feel like I always see that that's in Omaha, and I don't know why I think that because I've certainly never watched it.
But that's possible.
Assuming that that's the case, that's got to be a fun trip for people all over the world just to fly into the United States and see the cornfields and play some baseball.
Hey, we get to go to the United States. Oh, that's so fun. You're going to see the Empire State Building and guns.
Yeah.
Well, one of those things is true.
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine them being mad at the
Omaha.
people going to LA in 4 years for the Olympics, and they're going to Omaha.
Yeah. We're going to the largest city in all of Nebraska.
We'll crack 1 million one of these days.
That's awesome. Well, shortly after we recorded last week, I jumped into my inbox and saw that Pete Corielli of the Pete and Sebastian Show, a show and a couple of guys we reference all too often on this podcast, was going to be recording a live sort of side podcast that he calls Loose Ends with Pete Corielli. The premise of the show is supposed to be, and I think we could, since they steal from us so often, I think that this is something we could encourage middlers to do with us. But the premise is stories that Pete or Sebastian have told on the show and sort of left with a cliffhanger, or, yeah, I'll let you know what ends up happening. Fans email, call, whatever, and say, you never wrapped up the story of what happened with your neighbor when you mowed 3 strips of his lawn. You never finished the... And so it's an opportunity for Pete to sort of clean up all those stories. That's what it's kind of supposed to be, but it's for the Patreon members exclusively. And it ends up becoming like people just hanging out with Pete. He's really good and very thoughtful about asking them questions. Tell me what you do. And then he sort of riffs on their profession. And it's kind of like crowd work, but the premise is supposed to be that he's cleaning up loose ends. Anyway, after we recorded, I log into my email. I see that he's going to be recording live at 8:30 p.m. that night. And I'm like, hey, what the heck? I'll jump on. So it's on Patreon and YouTube live streaming. But then they say, here's the link to the Zoom call. If you'd like to ask Pete a question, let us know here in the comments. And let us know what your screen name will be in the Zoom. And we may or may not throw you on the show. If we do, be sure to mute your YouTube live or your Patreon so that we're not hearing the duplicate sounds, and just engage one-on-one in the Zoom call, right? So this ended up being an over 2-hour long live podcast with Pete. They brought on one of their old producers. They talked about music for a while. He talked about a trip he had recently taken. There was a bunch of other stuff that they wanted to cover in the show. And then I'm like an hour and 15 minutes in. And then he goes, all right, guys, let's take some more calls. And then I hear one of the producers say, this guy's been waiting for hours, which was me. And my question was something along the lines of, I don't know. I don't have any friends, or I don't know of any people or any other podcasters that talk more about social etiquette and moves. Hey, what's your move for when this happens? Yeah. Or what's your move when you're on an airplane? And sometimes my move is that I pretend like I'm taking a phone call to get out of awkward social. So I said, no one talks more about social etiquette and moves as much as you guys. Do you think that's because you're comedians and you're gifted in the art of observation? Do you think this is because you're Italian and this is like an Italian thing where you're always kind of like sizing people up? You're making value judgments of people. You're trying to see if you've been slighted in any way. Or is this some other thing? And maybe this is too inside baseball, but I would love to hear you talk about why you think you're so interested in doing that. And then he laughed and he answered the question, but I first introduced myself as the guy who did the caricature of him when he came to Columbus and gave it to him. And he's like, oh, I remember you. I have that hanging in my office. So that was a really nice way to intro. Then I asked the question. Then he and I go back and forth a little bit. And then he says, for example, and I happen to be wearing my chain. He goes, for example, I hate your chain. Why is it out of your shirt like that? That's like a high school thing. You need to tuck that under your shirt, and a lady can see that if she's earned it. And had I been thinking, I would have said, had I been thinking quickly enough, I would have said, well, I already do a lot of things that you and Sebastian have deemed childish or silly or stupid. For example, they hate gaming chairs. I'm sitting in a gaming chair. I wear Air Jordans. You told Sebastian that he should no longer wear Air Jordans. If I would have been thinking, I would have done some more self-deprecation, but he had me on the show. He said, "Tell me your name again. Tell me the name of your art page." And then I said, "And we also started a podcast from the middle. We're 267 episodes in. It was in part inspired by you and Sebastian, and it was a great hangout on a Patreon members only podcast with Pete. And apparently they do it every Tuesday. So I'm going to call in and do my own loose ends and say, hey, follow up. I don't wear my chain outside my shirt anymore. I tuck it in thanks to you." And then bring up the gaming chair and the Jordans and make fun of myself some more. But it was a really good time. And I thought it's really cool that they do that. And it was a great opportunity to plug the podcast. And then we started getting more followers on Instagram. And it's like, hey, saw you on Loose Ends. That was awesome. So pretty cool little story. I had a really good time with Pete.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Rubbing elbows with.
Nah.
Yeah.
Just pay $5 a month and you can earn your way to a Zoom call with your favorite B or C list podcaster.
Hey, just so you know, Pete, burned my whole pile of Jordans. They're all gone now. I took your advice.
Yeah. I used to wear Jordans too.
Then he got cowboy boots and now he's a Tecovas guy.
I'm a Tecovas and Merrill guy.
That's right, baby. So that was a good time. And it brings up another question, kind of in the vein of social etiquette. So I want to know how you guys would handle this situation. I think this was Christmas gift or birthday gift for Sherry. I got her a really nice gift card to Massage Envy. It's a chain of massage. I don't want to say parlor. It's not a massage parlor. It's a professional.
It's an above board.
It's an above board.
Very professional.
Totally legitimate.
Not like professional.
Not
like.
So I say, hey, you've got this $125 Massage Envy gift card laying around. You've had it for over 2 or 3 years. Are you ever going to use this? She's like, I'm never going to use that. I really appreciated that you got it for me, but I'm not going to use it. I had just gotten off a work trip. I had been on planes. We've talked about being all scrunched up as big guys on airplanes. Stressful. I was like, you know what sounds great? Me using that Massage Envy gift card. So I find the one nearest me. And then it's like, do you have a preference of masseuse? And I was like, I'm not at all weirded out by selecting male, but just in my head, I sort of just default to female to do it because it's not at all weird to me, and not to be sexist, but like I assume the more common individual.
Not at a place like Massage Envy.
Not at a place like Massage Envy. I assume the more common type of individual to be doing this type of a service would be that.
When I think, if I'm picturing the masseuse in my head, it is the female.
So I was like, I guess that feels more comfortable to me than not that I'm very secure in my anyway. I was like, just female feels right. Then the question,
it wasn't a big deal until you made it one.
Exactly. Exactly. This is what goes through my head as an overthinker. So table that as one question for yourselves. Which would you have selected? Which feels the most natural for you? Then the question becomes, how much clothing do you remove? Again, probably normal for the people who do it every month, multiple times. But when you're coming in cold, figuratively, you're like, how much am I supposed to take off? And luckily on their website, they're basically like, whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to be fully clothed, it's not going to be as relaxing a massage, but we can certainly work around that, literally and figuratively. If you're an underwear type of person, fine. And if you're a totally nude, that makes you the most comfortable. Obviously, we have to cover you up with the blanket. And they're not going to be anywhere near those areas anyway. But you're allowed to do that, and that's perfectly acceptable. So I go in. What brings you in? My wife had a gift card. She wasn't going to use it. I thought I would use it. Great. See here that you've selected, not going to say the person's name. And I said, yep, that sounds great. And they say, hey, we're going to take you back and show you what a room looks like. This is the table. This is where you put your clothes after you've taken them off. This is where you put your jewelry and anything that you have on you, wallet, whatever. And we'll give you 5 minutes, and then they'll knock and make sure you're ready and come in. And then it'll be a full hour. And then 5 minutes, you get back dressed, come out and pay. Great. Sounds good. So I chose female, and I was like, I don't think of this as a sensual thing, but now I'm thinking I will be very aware that a female is touching me with oils while slow music is playing. What if, I mean, I don't want to, is there a potential of an awkward situation happening? And let me just tell you, the minute that my person walked through the door, I was like, well, never mind. This isn't going to be an issue at all. Because she was very nice and we had a great conversation, but there was no chance at all of it being at all. And I was like, you know what? I kind of actually love that she came in. Hey, how's it going? I'll be doing your massage today. So that ended up being best case scenario, because that took a lot of those questions right off the table.
Oof.
So thoughts, first of all, what are you doing? Male, female? Are you going to be fully, is that, are those normal things to be, what's going on?
Yeah. You know, I've never been concerned about getting canceled from anything I've said on this podcast before, but I'm going to step lightly here. I think a lot of the things that you thought are probably very common and normal things that most people think about.
Okay.
And so it's probably totally normal that you had all of those thoughts. And I'm glad it worked out in a positive way. And you've now made me know for sure that it's something I never, ever want to do now. I'm now very confident that I have no interest in ever doing that.
Dylan trying to get away from the hypotheticals.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, man.
So I agree. I'm glad that you walked through that experience well before I did. I don't see myself either ever going to a massage professional venue.
Dojo studio. What is
Dojo? I would, because I think, Kory, that everybody, as Dylan said, like, those are perfectly normal thoughts to have. Just most people don't have them out loud on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we're about, right?
Nah.
We're about out loud on a podcast. That's what we're about. So I think that that's a perfectly acceptable, normal internal narratives to walk through your first time into Massage Envy. I would also walk through those as you did, and I would probably therefore choose male for that reason. Just because, like, I don't want there to be even a shred of awkward looks or thoughts coming my way that probably wouldn't come my way anyway, but I'm still afraid of them.
Yeah.
And so I would choose male, and I have selections of underwear, some different brands and lengths of boxer briefs, and I would go for like the longest, loosest fitting, probably boxer briefs that have the most coverage, and like that's what I would strip down to.
Yeah. Like Long Johns, like a full
Not quite Long Johns, but
with the little buttons on the butt cheeks that you like flips.
just in case.
Just
Wait, I thought we decided long johns were called Bismarcks, or is that a different conversation?
that's a kind of donut.
Oh,
around.
okay. Got it.
I think I would need a button. I think the only way I would consider this is if it said male, female, or surprise me, and then I wouldn't feel any guilt or anxiety either way because I'd be like, I don't.
I was gonna say, is there a no preference box that you could have checked?
I think there was, yeah.
Okay.
Like first available or whatever. Here's the other thing I learned, and I love that when we had our friend, the barber on, Ray, you said like, what's like something you wish all clients knew? And he said, keep your hands. What was it? Keep your hands in your lap, because if they're
Keep
on
your hands like folded in the middle of your lap.
yeah, because if they're on the chair, chances are I'm going to accidentally lean my crotch against that to try to reach into something like that.
Yeah.
Here's what I learned. If you want a relaxing massage and to just enjoy the ambient new age music, don't talk to your massage therapist, because their rule of thumb is if you talk to us, we start talking back. And I probably, because I was overthinking all of those things in true Curb Your Enthusiasm style, my nervous energy meant I was just being extra friendly, and she didn't stop talking the entire time. So now if I go back to the same person, now if it's like with Uber Comfort, you can make the selection that says no talking, please. But now I've already talked to her. And so now if I go to not talking, she's like, hey, we talked last time. Why are you being weird now? Well, no. Today I'm just in the mood
it's not you, it's me. Yeah. And you can't go back and choose someone else.
No. Because then she's like, what? We didn't have a great time talking about the time I worked at Disney and our love of musical theater and how I'm a classically trained operatic soprano and you were in show choir and all that stuff.
And you see her in the hallway on your way to meet someone else, and she's like, "Wait a minute,
wait, what?
I thought okay." Fine.
But if you ever go and you just want to relax, don't talk to your massage therapist. Just
so, like, what happens if you're out and about and you bump into her, and you're like, "Hey," and she's like, "Hey, Kory, right? Wendy from the dojo." You know. Do you think that's a thing?
The above board massage place, remember?
Right.
Or the front desk person is like, can you believe this creep picking woman? He didn't just pick no preference. Gosh, what?
That's what I thought they'd think. Guy comes in requesting female, weirdo.
I was expecting you to like lie down and like confess to us that like you started talking about like trying to ease her mind that like I'm not like one of those weirdos. Like I'm not Robert Kraft over here. Like
And every word you say makes it weirder because that's
right.
Now talking about that.
Yep.
Fun times. Well, chances are I could go back because a colleague of mine was like, hey, because our work can be sometimes physically demanding, putting up these walls and standing all day to draw during the workshops, and we're on planes a lot. Do you know our company covers monthly massage?
Wow.
And I went to my physical wellness visit and said to my doctor, which I'm going to get into that later. But I was like, hey, one of my colleagues mentioned and that this could possibly be covered. Like, is that something you can give me a referral for? And he's like, yeah, I'll print it out and have it to you right when you leave. And I was like, that's all we had to do? And he's like,
amazing.
Yeah. A lot of insurance companies and stuff are into preventative maintenance now, and acupuncture and massage therapy and chiropractic medicine and all these things are covered by a lot of these providers. And I was like, yeah, because they had like my colleague has Kaiser Permanente out on the West Coast, and they're like, yeah, they're big into preventative maintenance and stuff like that. So hey, chances are I'll be back. But now I know these things and we've learned a lesson, and I'm sharing it with you in an effort to help you avoid some of the same awkward situations I find myself in regularly.
Oh,
One of you guys talk now.
man. It's fun to listen to an honest overthinker, isn't it? That's great.
I'm getting
stuff.
better every day.
I do have a social etiquette thing, and I think I've already decided how I feel about it, but I'll let you guys weigh in case I'm wrong. So the talking loudly on the phone in public is not a new discussion. We've had that one before, but to take it one step further, walking through the closest, well, not the closest mall, the closest nice mall to us, and we're in a department store, and somebody is walking very animatedly, is that a word? Very animatedly through the store in the middle of the walking portion aisle, like not the carpety area where you like veer off amongst the racks, like the main thing, and talking loudly. So from a distance, seeing no one around this person, I'm just not used to this yet. And they're sort of like going off and they're, gesturing and waving their arms around. And I kind of see as she's talking, I'm like, she's not like holding a phone. It's not on speakerphone. And I can see one side, and then she turns her head, and there's the one ear AirPod dangling down from the other ear. And then it clicks. Oh, I should have known. People walk around with phones and earbuds all the time. And I pretty much decided it's a little off-putting because crazy people also exist. It's a little off-putting to do that in the middle of like a common, and I think I've decided that everyone should universally adopt my opinion that if you're going to do that thing, and especially if you're animated and loud, but probably everyone, just go out, find a corner, go to a corner and just kind of meander about in circles. And at least
down.
At least if you seem crazy, you'll seem crazy out of the way of everyone else. You know what I mean? Like you'll be off in a corner like, who's that person over there talking to themselves? I don't know. Just don't walk over to that corner. But at least then you're in the corner, and then when you're done on your call, you go back to the normal walkway. It's pretty off-putting. And even as somebody who's into tech, I'm still not quite used to it because it's the one earbud. They're so small, and it's the one earbud in one ear. It's not like when people would have the big Bluetooth, the huge, it was halfway down their cheek. Like you could see that pretty fast. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts or care to comment, but it feels like the appropriate thing to do is either don't go into a public place and like meander about outside a little bit, but stay out of walkways. Don't be loud. Stay off to the side. Take your call. Fine. People have to take calls at random hours. I don't like the walking down the middle. This feels like the chit-chatting with the carts in the middle of the grocery store aisle, but just a little crazier because you're by yourself. You know what I mean?
For me personally, like I go like probably a giant step further for my own actions. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's I value privacy so much. But like I don't even like to hold phone to my ear and have a conversation within earshot of other people in public. Like over like something that like calling my wife like in the middle of the grocery store, and I'm like, is it Rouse's on sale? Is that should I get two? Like I don't want other people to hear me say that for no reason. It just feels awkward to me. So even in that situation, I'm keeping it low key and only calling somebody in public if I have to. Otherwise, I wait till I'm in the car.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, and add
now,
the element of at least with you, like in that situation, I can understand you not wanting to do it, but at least I can see that you have a phone
right
here, and immediately I understand the context of the situation.
Yeah, and I know all that. So for me, it's like it's not even that people don't realize that I'm not talking to them or someone else. It's that I'm on the phone. It's just stay out of my business kind of. I don't know what it is. Why I feel weird about that. No, I agree. I don't like hearing other people's phone conversations either. So I wish people would stick to, because so often I can tell that they're just like social calls and they're walking, and to each his own. Like, my logical side is very understanding and says it's fine. But then there is that piece of me that's like, I wish you weren't doing that right in front of me.
Yeah.
And I can't even explain why it bothers me, but it does.
I have a question. We talk a lot about these people who just seem to be painfully unaware or so at the center of their own universe that they're like just the epitome of rude people. What if we're misreading it? What if they're just confident underthinkers?
Maybe.
Like, maybe they're not intentionally rude. Maybe they're just so confident that they're like, I don't give two rips if this guy in the glasses and hat doesn't like that I'm walking down the aisle having a conversation. This is when I needed to have this conversation. I'm having it. I probably could have found a quiet corner, but I didn't, because I'm walking down the middle. I got someplace to be. And like, what if they're just really, really confident and or underthinkers?
Oh, no, I think that's what I was speaking to. They should just care. I'm saying that they should care. I assume, because you said confident underthinkers and I heard loud idiots. And so I think I care. I think they should care. I'm kidding. But I'm sure that's a big part of it though, right? So like I'm sure a big part of that is some people just don't care, you know? They're just maybe they'd be slightly more thoughtful about it if they weren't in a rush or they didn't have, you know, something, whatever. It's just really, it came up last minute. I get that. I'm saying if we're constructing our own social rules for the purposes of comedic entertainment, I think they should go find a dark corner and live there for the duration of their phone call.
Yeah.
Fair.
And maybe all of these things are connected, because somewhere down deep inside, we know that person is also the person who doesn't care to use their blinker in front of you. And,
Sure.
or maybe it's like making public phone calls is like the gateway drug to not using your blinker.
Before you know it, they're going to be in a room in Massage Envy and they're going to knock, knock, knock. Are you ready? Come on in, naked without the blanket.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where this leads. You're going to end up making somebody's day very uncomfortable.
Sure, you didn't seem to fill out the gender preference on your form. Yeah, I didn't fill it out on purpose. I want a woman. Give me a woman. That's what they say, those people.
Yeah, right. After this, I'm going to go through the Taco Bell drive-thru and order 20 meals.
Yes. Yeah, I think there is certainly some overlap in the levels of inconsiderateness. I make up words a lot on the show. How inconsiderate they are. I think there's a lot of overlap there. And I recognize that they might care about some things that I don't care about, and I care about some things that they don't care about. But in my head, I can still feel more reasonable than them because it's my own safe space. So,
you know where else there's a lot of overlap? Our show and this show you're about to hear from in the Odd Pods Media Network. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Pantsless Aaron.
This is Stevie.
And I'm Augie.
And we are BFYTW, a podcast all about playing games and having fun. Our games are usually based on British panel shows and game shows, but we'll play anything that captures our attention and imagination. Why? It's right there in the title.
You'll never guess what the F stands for.
So speaking of inconsiderate jerks, one of our favorite television characters is Michael Scott, the star of The Office. Did you guys know there's an Australian Office coming out, streaming on Prime Video?
No.
And the boss, the Michael Scott character, or the Ricky Gervais, I'm blanking on his character's name in the British Office.
David Brent,
thank you, is played by a female in the Australian version.
Good.
So,
break dancer.
a lot of thoughts about that. Like, Is it going to hold up? Why are they doing it now so far after the popularity of the other show? Maybe this is the perfect time to do it. Create a little space between that other show, and so that you can kind of fully stand on your own. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'm going to be honest. If they don't immediately hire a choreographer to teach the boss the dance moves from Ray Gun, they really missed out on the whole spirit of what The Office is supposed to be. Because it took something that had been beat to death, like a "that's what she said" joke, and made it so funny again. And so by the time the show was recorded and then comes out, the Ray Gun thing will have come and gone. And then this boss needs to bring it back. And then we can watch all the meme videos again.
Yes.
So I hope that they lean into that and really, really enjoy that whole meme again.
Let's first season just have a side plot, hire Ray Gun herself and have her come in because the boss wants the office as a team building exercise to learn breaking.
Yeah. Ray Gun plays herself.
Yes.
And the boss is paying a stupid amount of money just to have her around in the office, randomly breakdancing for team building. And Ray Gun just does it because it's money. And why not?
And why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole world would become Ray Gun fans if she did this.
She could redeem herself. Absolutely. Also, just for fun, throw in some of our favorite folks from the Australian Love on the Spectrum as cast members to work in that side office area. Not one of the main characters, just have them come in for comedic relief and fun. That'd be awesome.
Like warehouse admin people or something.
Yep.
Yeah. I want them to run a company in the same building in a totally different industry, and them to be constantly talking about how much money they're making and not even trying to rub it in, but they're just constantly talking about how successful they are versus the flailing paper company.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. I love it.
What else you guys got?
I have to say, we do sometimes pick at things to be funny, and I had planned on kind of picking at something that I thought was a little silly. And then I had to totally just double back and mock myself in the end. So it all started a long time ago with all the charcuterie memes that had kind of gone around social media. People trying to say it, people saying it wrong, talking about how charcuterie boards are adult Lunchables. It's like we just grew up from Lunchables into like adult Lunchables. And those are pretty funny. I think most of us could relate because we've had quite a few cut boards make it through different holiday seasons. And then I was at Target, and literally right beside the Lunchables were literally adult versions of Lunchables. Same kind of, I don't mean Lunchable brand, but same basic packaging. Different.
They'll have like some almonds and some cheese and some raisins in them. And
crackers, cheese, various kinds, different meats, but like fancier like meats and cheeses, not like, American cheese or whatever, but like literally the exact same thing with a different label on it. And the label's meant to look fancy. And so I'm kind of like making fun of it a little in my head, but also thinking it kind of sounds good because the memes were also about me, and I didn't buy any because I was going to playfully mock it a little bit. And then I kind of forgot about it for several days. And then I went to make dinner the other night, and we've tried a new kind of mac and cheese, which is delicious, called Goodles. And they're just kind of like a little bit healthier and have a little bit protein and whatever. And so we decided that sounds good for dinner. So I'm going to make a couple boxes of Goodles. And I had gone to Costco, and I had found some really great like beef sausage, Italian garlic beef sausage, whatever. And so I'm making the Goodles, and I think, I've got some of that sausage. I might slice some of that up. And so I sliced it up and I heat it up, and I'm dishing out the mac and cheese. And then I thought, I've already cut this up and heated up. Why don't I just throw my really fancy Italian garlic beef sausage, delicious, whatever, just into the Goodles? Why not? Just one bowl. It's just easier.
Now we're cooking. This is cooking.
And then I've realized that the person that was going to make fun of adult Lunchables has now made mac and cheese and hot dogs, but a fancy adult version because it's noodles, aged white cheddar mac and cheese with fancy noodles, and my Italian garlic Costco beef sausage. And I just made a fancy version of the thing that I ate as a kid that I was just thinking I was going to pick at to be funny a little bit. And darn it, it was delicious. It was so good. And I'd want to make it again. And so I can't even make fun of the charcuterie people, even playfully, even though it was also me, because I realized what I did. I just memed myself. And so I'm in it. People can mock me. I eat Lunchables, and it was fantastic. They're so good. There's Kory. If you're not on YouTube, you should be following our YouTube channel because it's awesome. But also, Kory is sharing a bunch of the Goodles labels, and there's like Twist My Parm and aged white cheddar, and they're good. They're not crazy better than Kraft macaroni and cheese, but they're noticeably a little bit better. And so I turned myself into a meme, and I'm here to mock myself and allow you both to mock me in any way that you see is fit because I deserve it, and I brought it on myself.
Well, is opening a Lunchable cooking?
Depends on where you're from and if you have a job. I think.
Right. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, a couple thoughts that come to mind. First of all, people like me who like enjoy sometimes eating trash out of gas stations have seen like they call it like protein packs or something like that, which are adult Lunchables. Like I've consumed more than one of those out of a gas station before. That, but also adding meat to mac and cheese when I was in my 20s was when like Noodles and Company started to become popular, at least in our area. And that place introduced me to a couple of pivotal things in my life. One of them was adding meatballs to mac and cheese. Mac and cheese with meatballs is beautiful. And then that is also the place that introduced me to sriracha. So mac and cheese with meatballs, drizzle sriracha on top. To this day, like I put sriracha on my mac and cheese to this day, and I'm known to throw meatballs or something into mac and cheese. So I'm literally on board with everything that you just described, Dylan.
It's a good shout. How do you cook the meatballs? Just do you put them in any kind of sauce before the mac and cheese, or you just the marinated meatballs?
Nothing marinated. Literally just like baked meatballs straight into the mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, no judgment, man. I don't feel like you should say that you turned yourself into a meme. I too love the charcuterie is just for kids who grew up on Lunchables. And the whole time you were telling your story, all I kept thinking about was these things, the most popular sellers at Starbucks: the cheese and fruit protein box, the eggs and cheddar protein box, and the peanut butter and jam protein box. That's basically just Lunchables. And who doesn't love a pre-cut, pre-packaged little thing where you get a few tastes of a couple different things on the go? I think it's just practical.
Vegetables are so much better when they're pre-cut with dip. You know,
right.
If I don't have to do the work and I can dunk it in something, I guess it's just really leaning into the coochie cue boards in our middle age. Just lean into it and enjoy it.
So I am literally sitting right next to me right now is cheap cheese and Ritz crackers.
Charcuterie.
That is, I feel like that's like the middle ground charcuterie.
Yeah,
it's
like the I don't go to Lynn's Fruit Farm very often. If you're Columbus area, you know Lynn's. But when my wife and daughter go, they like to bring back the summer sausage from Lynn's.
Yeah,
you can do that with like a Munster or like a white cheddar or something, and really lean into the crackers with the summer sausage. So
summer
good.
Sausage is beautiful as well.
I'm sure you guys have been to a nicer hosted event or wedding or New Year's Eve party or something where somebody goes all out and makes like the flowing mountain of charcuterie that's got like meats, cheeses, grapes, and fruits and dried fruits and I mean, just like it like you don't want to. It looks like still life art. You don't want to touch it, and they're like, no, eat.
Great.
And I just every time I think of the A Christmas Carol, the one big spirit who was like eating the wine and the grapes and the bread. I forget which ghost he was, but he was like the jolly happy one that was like living life to the fullest. And he just had all that stuff flowing around him. Like I'm thinking of the Disney Mickey Mouse version, I'm sure.
It's the Muppet Christmas Carol. Do you mean?
Yeah. It's just that's what I feel like that guy when I partake in one of those fancy charcuterie spreads.
He's my spirit animal,
Mm-hmm.
as it turns out.
Kendall, you got anything this week? What's new other than watching baseball?
Oh boy. Man, we've got sports coming out of our wazoo right now. I tell you what, I'm about to become a DIYer in the lawn chemical application world.
Yeah.
So we had an interesting situation where last year we were asked by our lawn treatment company if we would the verbiage that was used, would you like to be put on the schedule for aeration and overseeding, which is something that our lawn could use. And so we said yes. And so we did it. And then last week, I left the house. I came back, and our lawn had been aerated and overseeded. We did not ask them to do this year. We don't remember ever signing any kind of contract that was like, we're going to do this on an annual basis. It's $300 to have them come do this to our yard. And so, like, my wife, who is the person who set up the account and everything, like, called. They're like, oh, we don't know what happened. We'll get a manager to talk to you. And so a manager texts instead of talks. And when and because we're over here, like, and I'm even like Googling, like researching, like, it is like the dog days of August right now. Why are you throwing grass seed in our lawn now, even if we were like willing to pay for it? Right. And he had some kind of line like, well, I mean, when it gets cooler outside and then it starts to rain, then it will germinate. And I'm like reading stuff that's telling me, no, it's going to dry out and die before it gets to that. And even then, like, even if that wasn't true, like the birds and rodents are going to eat it before like September rolls around. And even if they didn't, let's say it rains once and it's still dog hot outside, it's going to dry up and die then because it started germinating and then it wasn't followed up with anything. So anyway, I've been out since then watering our lawn because we have hundreds of dollars apparently of grass seed in our lawn.
Yeah, now you're obligated to water because you're like, I don't want this investment to go to waste.
And we don't have like an irrigation system or anything like that. There's few things in life to me that are more annoying than chasing sprinklers around the yard and like making sure, oh, I don't know if I'm getting that corner over there. But if I like adjust it now, then I'm going to be like watering this same area like 4 times. And like, so I've been chasing sprinklers around the yard for days now. And I still have some chemicals left over from a few years ago. And so just decided, you know what? We're done with you guys altogether. And so I'm getting into that world. I have a broadcast spreader. Like I have the tools. I just don't necessarily have all the expertise.
Sure.
And don't know exactly what to do when, but I'm going to figure it out. And for the moments that I do need to water, I'm putting together not an in-ground irrigation system, but putting together something that I can like set up and leave it together for a few weeks and let it go. So that's new in my world. It all started with some frustration, but there's also some freedom attached to it. and I get to learn some man stuff. So,
And we're 40 now. And so treating our lawns is something we care about. Deeply.
Exactly.
I thought you were going to say that the lawn aeration guys punctured your cable line like they did when they came out to my house, because the cable is supposed to be buried a minimum of 6 inches below the surface. And ours, you can see it in different spots of the yard. The orange line running from the tower at the back of the stretch of houses to our house. And it just, they just punched our cable line bajillion times when they came out. So we don't do that anymore. And we just live with bad grass because we like to stream things.
I thought you were going to say the manager texts because he didn't want to get on his earbud walking through the mall.
Maybe that was it.
It was that guy.
Maybe it was a courteous text.
Yeah. It was like, hey, I'd love to call you, but turns out middle of the mall.
Is that an old guy thing? Like, I feel like generations younger than us would appreciate the text instead of a phone call. In that situation, I'd rather talk to the person. I'd rather the phone call. I feel like the text is the cheap way out.
Yeah, it's avoidance. They don't want to have the tough phone call.
Yeah. Because like he would have to answer questions in real time. And people don't like to do that these days.
Yeah.
One thing I found in doing sales and service for a long time in various capacities, as soon as I feel like somebody gets keyboard warriory, that's immediately when I pick up the phone. And it's not because I want to, but lots of people have lots of attitude when they can just send a text or an email. And then I can just get them on the phone and kill them with so much freaking smothering kindness. They don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean?
That's really wise. That's good on you.
Because it's so easy to, and not on top of that, you can't read contact, or you can't read through like an email or text anyways. You don't really know. So as soon as somebody throws out a couple exclamation points and seems a little frustrated, now in your mind they're very angry. And so I never want to do it, but I know it's the best way to get rid of that whole thing really quickly. Just to pick up the phone and call somebody. Well, let us know how it goes. All your new tools and watering systems and tunnels and whatever super soaker powered water squirt gun yard, whatever you set up.
Yeah. Melnor is a company that I have decided on. Look it up. They're my sprinkler of choice.
There we go.
So
fun times.
Do you want to talk streaming?
Let's talk streaming.
So I watched Jackpot this past week. It was where is Jackpot? Where did I see that? I want to say it was on Prime. Yeah, it's a Prime deal. Prime Studio, Amazon Studios. If you're looking it up, it might also be called Grand Death Lotto, which I think is a far better name. But apparently, like the day of release, they changed it late in the day. Like it was originally supposed to be Grand Theft Lotto or Grand Death Lotto. Maybe that's why they changed it. And then they changed it to Jackpot. So it's listed under both names depending on where you look. It is a very fun film. It got like a 3 something on Rotten Tomatoes, but I take that with a grain of salt. I don't like tomatoes anyway.
Sure.
And it's got John Cena in it, which made me want to watch it. It's got Aquafina is the lead character. Machine Gun Kelly.
Love her.
You love Aquafina or Machine Gun Kelly?
Yes.
Both of them could.
Machine Gun Kelly, you love her too?
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly cameos amazingly in this film. It's a fun film. If it's a comedy, obviously, the idea of it is it takes place in California in like 2030, and the state has essentially run out of money, and so they come up with this big idea of having a lottery where the person who wins the lottery, whose name gets drawn to win $2 billion, they receive their award if they can stay alive until sunset that day. And all of the losing lottery participants can try to kill them legitimately and then steal the reward. And so that's the premise of the movie. John Cena comes in as a mercenary sort of character, and it is funny, and I
love the premise. That's the exact type of movie I would definitely jump all over. It's like what's the one where there's one day a year where all kinds of people...
that's the whole time I'm watching it. I'm thinking this is The Purge if it were a comedy. Like that's what this is.
Yeah. I love that. I'm totally gonna watch that. That's awesome. Well, nice. Leading into my streaming, just a real quick thing. I did another motorcycle demo truck for a different manufacturer, Triumph, the British-made motorcycles. And I just have to share a photo real quick, and then I'll get to my streaming because this is all part of the same Saturday. My favorite motorcycle that day was to ride the Triumph Rocket. It's the largest production engine in a motorcycle. It's 2,500 cc's, and it's a lot of motorcycle. And I rode a bunch of others that day with Greg, who's been on the show, and Dylan and I's cousin Connor. And Connor, my cousin, and his brother-in-law and my friend Matt were like, hey, we're going to go watch Deadpool and Wolverine again because it was that good. What would you like to go watch with us? And I was like, yes, please. So went and watched Deadpool versus Wolverine. And Dylan, I know you watched it and you're going to have a better review, but I was blown away. I texted you immediately and I said, have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine yet? Oh my gosh, you're going to love it. I want to watch you watch it. So you talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. I'll talk about John Krasinski's movies about imaginary friends. What a wonderful premise. What a disappointing movie. I love John Krasinski. I think he's great. I love A Quiet Place, and I know he directed that. But man, it was so disappointing. It was confusing. I didn't know what was happening. They didn't clearly explain the setting and who people were in relationship to one another. And the main girl in the movie, the child, John Krasinski's daughter, wasn't responding. Even my kids said, she's not responding to these situations like a real human being would respond. It just, I lost the plot multiple times. I had to pause and ask my wife, who had already seen it once with our son. I was like, what's going on? She's like, right? Isn't it confusing and weird? So if I wanted to like it, it's got this Who Framed Roger Rabbit-esque quality to it with these animated characters along live action characters. And it's John Krasinski, and it's the story of imaginary friends and people who have forgotten their imaginary friends and need to re-find them again. And it was just like a huge letdown. I wanted to like it. Sorry, not here for it. Well, but Deadpool versus Wolverine.
I'm glad I didn't watch If yet then. Finally, something I know something about. Based on everything that I know, and lots of time well spent, 2,500 cc's is a lot based on everything I know from Mario Kart. So that seems very fast.
It was very fast and very fun.
Super fast. Deadpool and Wolverine. What a fun movie. Question. What was the last Marvel movie or show that you've watched? Have you kept up, or was this kind of like you got thrown back in with the whole multiverse concept again?
I've watched shows, but if you're asking movies, I think the last movie was Endgame.
Did you see Spider-Man with the multiverse?
Oh, yeah. I saw Spider-Man with the multiverse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. So if you've been watching, like, did you see Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness?
Yeah.
Okay. You've seen enough. So this isn't your first foray in the multiverse. Man, it was so good, and I was really excited to see this one. And the only thing I really knew going in, I saw a few spoilers. I was trying to avoid them. I guess this is not a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen it, you should pause and go watch it, and then come back and finish this episode. they said going in that they weren't going to mess with Logan's death from Logan, which Hugh Jackman plays Wolverine, also known as Logan, died finally from his whole tenure in the Fox universe version X-Men movies. And so they weren't going to mess with that because it was a really emotional thing. And they
sort of passes the mantle to X-23, the girl that he's sort of like taken under his wing and trained up just to bring us all back.
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't mess with it, but they did. But they did it in a way that is acceptable because it's kind of what the comics do anyways, right? So like, Logan, Deadpool goes off and finds another Logan from another universe who is also Wolverine that can help him in the plot of this movie that he's doing. And we don't need to go into all the detail because it's just, some guys team up and they have some great gory fights and there's lots of language. But I think that the more interesting thing about this one is all the nods that it had, not only externally to real things that are happening because Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and references things in the real world, lots of jabs at the Fox universe for fun, but really like the Marvel acquisition and even personal multiple divorce jokes about Hugh Jackman and Jennifer Garner with Ben Affleck. And so lots of funny breaking the fourth wall there. But lots of references, even jokes with Channing Tatum playing Gambit, who had been trying to play Gambit in a movie, but never got off the ground. And he's in this void universe where he's referencing, I don't even know, maybe I was born here because so many great references to things that had happened. And I haven't watched the multiple hours of Easter eggs that you might have missed from the movie thing, but I feel like I caught enough of it that I got a bunch of the jokes. But really good, fun little nod to Ryan Reynolds owning Wrexham Football Club. Paul Mullins, one of the football players there, played a version of Deadpool that had like Welsh armor on his Deadpool costume. I think Matthew McConaughey played one of the Deadpools. Rob McElhenney was in it as one of the.
Blake Lively was one.
Blake Lively was Lady Deadpool. So lots of great cameos. Jennifer Garner, Wesley Snipes, tons of great cameos, made it really fun. On top of the movie itself just being really interesting and sort of jabbing at the idea of using the multiverse as a plot device to keep things extra interesting, which it also did. One of my favorite parts was actually just the mid-credit scene, and it's a really nice homage to all the movies that got us where we are that now aren't really in the MCU. So it nods back to the X-Men movies and let's see what else. Daredevil, not the Netflix Daredevil, like so the characters, the separate movies that had built up before the MCU started. And it used Time of My Life by Green Day as like a really nice way to celebrate the things that kind of led up to the creation of the MCU. And I thought that was really sweet. In the beginning, they used Bye 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 by NSYNC as kind of a funny, like, we're moving on from the Fox universe. But then at the end, they sort of pay homage to the Fox X-Men movies and some of those movies that didn't exist in the MCU. And it's just really good, really funny. Definitely not for kids. But I had a ton of fun watching it. And heck of a trilogy for Deadpool. I think it's probably for the fans up there with the Captain America trilogy and the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy as a really, really nice story told across, those films. So I really enjoyed it. It was really good.
I will just say, I don't know that I've had that much. I can't remember the last time I had that much fun in a theater. Like, I was smiling ear to ear. There were so many geekgasms, like little things that you really wanted to see. At leaning forward, smiling and laughing for 2 hours was a good time, and I highly recommend seeing it in theaters if you can before it's out.
Yeah, lots of fun. Other things streaming. Nothing to talk about on Paramount Plus yet, but I had a good chuckle because we're doing like a trial of Paramount Plus, and it's the version with ads, and every ad is Paramount Plus plugging their own networks and shows. Clearly, no one has paid money. In fact, the only commercial that I've seen that wasn't an advertisement for their own IPs was them trying to sell people on buying ad space on Paramount Plus because they're the only ones paying to advertise on themselves. Really, I've never been more excited to watch commercials because I chuckle every single time it's Nickelodeon or it's Paramount or it's CBS something, and I just chuckle every single time an ad comes on. So Paramount Plus has been amusing so far, and college football is back, which is also something I'm streaming because I love that college football is back. So there you go.
And what a fun way to kick it off in Ireland. That was a blast.
It was lovely. Georgia Tech and Florida State. Florida State got beat. That's 2 times by 2 different Georgia teams in back-to-back seasons. Clearly, they want to get out of the ACC because they can't even hack it in the ACC. They just want to make more money getting beat somewhere else. So that was a fun game. I really enjoyed the fact that it was in Ireland. Do you guys like those sporting events in unique remote locations? Do you think like basketball game in Hong Kong, or the games in Ireland, or they take the NFL to Mexico or Argentina or wherever they go? Is that fun for you?
Or bring Premier League here to Columbus? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
Premier League
was
just in Columbus. I think, and there's a difference too for me when it feels like when it's like a friendly match or it's like a preseason thing. When it's an actual game, like there's actual impact to the season on the line, it feels cooler. Preseason always feels a little like meh, or friendly matches are a little like meh. Not that I'm complaining about Premier League in the shoe, but it just felt extra nice that it was like an upset against preseason rankings don't really matter, but it was an upset against the top 10 team to literally kick off the college football season, which was great. So I like those special locations. I think Dublin is a great way to go.
Nobody's more excited about college football every Saturday until the middle of January than my wife. And so good times here in the Hubble House. Kendall, anything else from you, buddy?
No, I too am very excited for football to start back up, start to answer some questions for the University of Michigan and see where things lie. They're a giant question mark. That is what Michigan is this year. And we'll see. And I want to shout out too, like I absolutely love like when the NFL started going over to London and like playing football games in Wembley. Like that is amazing to me. I love the idea. But I also like the NHL has been doing the NHL Classic now for a while. And what that has been sort of recent history for the NHL has been on New Year's Day, they play at an outdoor arena somewhere. They set up a hockey rink like in the middle of a baseball field or football field, something like that. Now they're doing that multiple times a year. And then baseball has their thing where they play in a cornfield once a year. And right now, I love all of it. I can see there being a tipping point at some point where they're like, everybody's just trying to capitalize on this idea, and now it's not as special anymore. I wonder if that day is going to happen. So I do have that thought. But as of right now, I love watching all of it.
Yeah, like bowl games when more than half the teams get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a special game every other week, then all of a sudden it's not gonna feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely. Go ahead.
I do still think it'll always be meaningful to the fans, like all the expats that are in Europe that get a chance to see NFL and college football.
Oh, sure.
Even if it's more frequent, I think I could even see us getting sick of it if it's too frequent. But I think they've got to just love that. Like, all I got to do is get to Dublin or get to London, and I can finally see a college football game or an NFL game.
Yeah.
Or we're at whatever sport in whatever city. I'm sure all those folks really appreciate it.
Lots of questions about the future of sport. No question that we'll be back next week with another riveting episode of From the Middle. Thanks for joining, and shout out to our sponsor, Artius Man. You know what I just ran out of? Beard oil, and I need some more. And it smells so good every time I get another batch of oil and beard balm and beard salves and lotions and washes from Artius Man. I get excited, and you will get excited when you fill your cart full of good stuff and use promo code THEMIDDLE at checkout to get 25% off of your order, your first order, and all subsequent orders would be attached to us. You know how affiliate marketing works. You listen to podcasts. So do that. Go to Artius, man. Use the middle at checkout to get that 25% off. You'll be glad you did. They make great stuff, and they're right here in Central Ohio using all natural ingredients. So I'm going to go fill my cart right now, and definitely use promo code the middle. It won't work for me because I've already done it before, but it will work for you if you haven't. So definitely do that.
Take some Artius Man oils with you on your next trip to Massage Envy.
You know I will.
Perfect.
See you guys next time. Love ya.
Later.